Former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual, folks. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita is in the house. We have Lee Grant from Montgomery County is in the house. We have Patrick Magner. How you doing, my brother? Second time around from Houston, Texas. May Wood from Long Beach, California. We also have Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York, upstate New York. We also have Yvette Avery Herod, who she won it today. She was the first one in the chat from Atlanta, Georgia, and our resident union expert. Don't forget to type anything or call me if you have any good information that we need to know about the strike from the longshoremen. Also in the house, I thought I saw AVQ is in the house, just getting home. Surprised to be nearly on time. You were almost on time. El Senor Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. You almost made it, brother. You almost made it. All right, okay. Norman Reynolds, hola mi gente. Estoy escuchando en vivo otra vez. Hey, people, I'm listening live again. Hey, great to see you, Norman. Hey, we got to go get some coffee. You got to come out here to Kingwood sometime. You have more time than I. Well, you used to have more time. I don't know. Maybe you're out there doing your engineering I know when you feel like it, you go do your engineering work and become that professional engineer doing your thing. We also have in the house Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. How you doing, Melanie? Great to have you here. Bruce Pollard was almost on time. You are in Kingwood and you're not on time, Bruce. Maybe you need to come and sit in the chair next to me and do the show sometime next week, right? Bruce Pollard is in the house in the chat. And my brother, Jay Ray, he says, good afternoon and happy Friday Eve. I saw happy Friday and, I'm sleep deprived. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's Friday. I can wait. I can sleep late tomorrow. Damn it, Ray. Why did you do that to me? You made me think it was Friday because you do what the right wing do to their people. You put that subliminal message into their heads. And then, like Eric, you start believing it and start putting all this stuff out. Eric, we love you. We love you. But my God, Eric, when are you going to come and do the right thing, Eric? Come on, man. All right, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. We're going to have a great show for you today. Look, I don't know if you guys remember a woman. Let's see, first of all, Sue Wood. I'm studying the history of conservatives. I'm studying the history of conservatives. You may have to teach me after you've learned it because I just don't know it, right? I know we have conservative and progressives, but I don't know the deep history of it. I remember the muckrakers and all of that with progressive movement. But the thing about it is the progressive movement is not generic to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Actually, at one point in time, I know the Republican Party were the ones that were progressives. After all, it was formed in Wisconsin and it was an anti-slavery movement. That's who the Republican Party used to be. You know what I mean? So I think so. It precedes the Constitution. I didn't know that. All right, thousands will be the total dead, and all media can talk about is BS nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, J. Ray says apologies, brother. I'm saying that all in love, right, J. Ray? I'm just teasing you. But I'm telling the truth though. When I saw Friday, I'm like, oh great, it's Friday. I get to sleep tomorrow. But then no, I got to get up and do my 6 o'clock show. I love doing it, but I still have to get up and do it. Anyway, folks, let's start this way today. since nobody have any pros, and I'm not going to read well, actually, there is one thing that I want to read. I tell you what, Bridge, forgive me, Bridge, forgive me. Also, Michael Rudnin, but we are going to be educational today. This is not specifically for Brother Eric, but this is something that everybody needs to know. So here we go. FEMA runs out of money for Helene while spending hundreds of millions on migrants. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told reporters Wednesday that FEMA does not have enough funding to last the rest of the year, even as it has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on migrants under the Biden administration and more hurricanes. DHS oversees FEMA, putting Mayorkas in charge of the Emergency Relief Agency, which has recently been focused on helping migrants settle into the U.S. We are meeting the look. I'm not going to read anymore. What is your obsession with us being a humane country? With us doing what the world or what we are responsible for doing. If somebody comes onto the doorsteps of any country and says, I am seeking asylum, this is not for Eric, this is for everybody's sake. International law. If people come at your doorstep for asylum, it's your responsibility to check it out and bring them in. Okay? That is something that you need to know. Secondly, we can afford and we should be able to afford our hurricanes, etc., especially since the industry that is most responsible for climate change has been getting so many tax breaks. We can go ahead and stop giving them tax breaks and increase the funding necessary to handle the crap that they created. All right? Because remember, if it wasn't for the oil companies, by now we would have a lot greener energy, because it started with Brother Carter, President Carter, when he started to make the White House an example by putting solar panels on the White House. If we had continued on that trek with syn fuels that were biogeneric, with all these other energy efficient ways to get us off of oil, if we had started that back in 79 or before, actually 77, when Carter was pushing all this stuff, think about how far ahead we would be. But the oil companies made sure that we didn't do that. So please, Eric, spare me. Spare me. We need to just get some more money to take care of our brothers and sisters in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. Period. Punto y final. All right. Must Starlink to the rescue. Starlink stepped in to deliver fast, reliable internet service in areas where traditional networks were down. Well, that's the job. And guess what? He used our technology to do it. So it's not thanks to Musk. It's thanks to all the engineers and scientists who developed Starlink. And Musk couldn't write a line of code that does the Modbus protocol or any one of the protocols used by those satellites that intermingle in fairly low Earth orbit. Okay? So let's be clear here. We thank Musk for nothing. Musk is a capitalist who has monopolized on other people's ideas, who has monopolized on other people's wealth, who have monopolized on anything. So no thank you to Musk. We didn't need Musk for Starlink. He just got a monopoly by being a government, by sucking the tits of the government. That's all Musk is. He sucks on the tit of the government. Absent the government, there ain't no Musk. All right. So just want everybody to know that, my dear brothers and sisters. I'm glad that Eric brought those things up, because if you notice, I did a piece. I wrote a piece in for my Substack, and I hope all of you are signed up for my Substack, whether paid or not paid. It doesn't matter, but I would love for most of you who can afford to actually become paid subscribers of my Substack, because to put it bluntly, it will allow me to continue doing this as I should. but I had a recent Substack that I wrote. I'm trying to get to it right now. Exactly on, on all those people that like to praise Musk. Let me put that on the screen real quickly here. And it goes, the title of this particular one, and let me put it on a better screen, is Billionaires like Elon Musk are legally stealing our wealth and intellect. I'll read the first few words. In today's society, billionaires like Elon Musk are widely glorified, just like Eric has just glorified him. They are often celebrated for their immense wealth and perceived genius. However, few people critically examine the structural inequalities that allow such individuals to accumulate obscene wealth while contributing little to the labor that sustain our society. The video that I did for this delves into the exploitive nature of modern capitalism, how billionaires profit from the work of ordinary people, and how this system siphons wealth and intellect away from those who generate it. The myth of deserving wealth. One of the biggest misconceptions promoted in capitalist societies is that individuals like Elon Musk deserve their fortunes. The public have been conditioned to believe wealth is inherently tied to merit. If someone is a billionaire, the logic goes that they must have worked harder or smarter than everyone else. This belief is deeply ingrained, yet it overlooks the realities of how wealth is created and distributed. Elon Musk, for instance, is hailed as a visionary and a genius primarily because of ventures like Tesla and SpaceX. And I have a link on those two items that you should read. However, what is often ignored is that much of Musk's success is due to public subsidies, government contracts, and the work of thousands of engineers, scientists, and laborers who never see a fraction of his wealth. Much of the technology Musk is praised for having has been developed by government funded institutions or subcontractors long before he entered the scene. When Musk's rockets land after a successful launch, people marvel at what they think is a technology breakthrough, even though other nations have accomplished similar feats for decades. Musk is truly skilled at taking existing technologies and branding them as revolutionary under his name and with the help of immense public funding. So, Eric, if you decide to ever open your mind to understand the reality about the wealthy and understand that there are people like Bruce Pollard, a great scientist, people like Norman Reynolds, another great engineer, that goes out there and create things. And in them creating things, you know what? Bruce or Norman, you guys work for corporate America. You got a little stock options here and there. Did you make $1 billion? But you know what? Bruce and Norman, and the reason I'm using Bruce and Norman as my example is I know them personally. One is a scientist, one is an engineer. Okay? Now, here's the deal. Bruce and Norman, tell me, are you guys millionaires? Did they have to pay you $1 million to innovate? The innovations that you guys came up to. Norman, when you were out there in Holland building and designing those refineries, did anybody give you anything? Bruce, when you were doing those calculations and building those entities, did anybody need to give you $1 billion for you to do that? So you see, the fallacy is the following. The fallacy is that if we don't allow the capitalists to make the billions in profits that they make, that somehow innovation would stop. But the lie is the innovators are Bruce and Norman. And they're not asking for the billions. They're not given the billions, but they innovate. The lie is in, and the business schools are there promoting the lie. Capitalism is an individualistic failure. It's something that creates distortion in wealth, distortion in economic activity, distortion in environment, distortion in every single facet of life. Period. And we have to understand these concepts, people. We have to understand it so that we start electing the appropriate people into office and start giving people their worth. The teacher, the professors that made Bruce Pollard and Norman Reynolds who they are, the professors that instituted, they aren't billionaires, but they're the ones who were the genesis of the knowledge that my two brothers have here. But they're not billionaires. So how is innovation going to stop by giving Musk $1 billion when he doesn't know a damn thing? But these are the guys who innovate. People, get smart. Start using our heads, people. Let's start using our heads. All right. Okay, sorry for that rant, but I needed to do that rant because a lot of people believe that little crap. And it's not only people that are on the right wing that believes this stuff. I have good left wing people that are strict and true capitalists. Okay, we'll talk about Israel's behavior in a little bit. Bruce, I want to play this other video first, and then we can go there. Bridge MCP said, Egberto Willis, if someone who doesn't speak English can walk across the border and take your job, better analyze your job skills. I like that one. Patrick Magner says, what is don't understand about flows like Eric is he speaks of not wanting to pay taxes and then brings up when we don't have enough money to run civilization. That's actually, that's not a hypocrisy. That is the inability to think critically. And that's what they learned, right? We are taught not to think critically. Lee Grant says, let's get real. An environmental disaster, huge economic disruption, and World War III breaking out don't bode well for the Democratic incumbency. I have no problem with all these bad things that are happening right now because you know what? They happen in cycles and they'll be taken care of. And no, Kamala Harris will continue to win because you know what? We're not going to allow you guys to frame it. Page 605 of Project 2025 calls for the states to be able to opt out of federal labor laws, which could allow states to have a minimum wage production, not to have a minimum wage at all. Very true. Very true. You know who had that on a show? Ali Velshi. Very, very good. I haven't read the whole document, nor can I. The Guardian, Melania Trump passionately defends abortion rights in upcoming memoir. You know what? It's so funny. That is a calculated release. She's doing that as a favor to Donald Trump so that he can say, oh, I am just doing that, but my wife really believes in abortion. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Michael Ronan says, what's this 750? Nah, we won't talk about that one, Michael. He's crazy. All right, let's continue. Norman Reynolds says, no, we're not millionaire by pay, but you're millionaire in the heart, brother. Norman and Bruce, are y'all living comfortably and feel so privileged? Oh, Lord. Let's see what else we got here. The grifting connected to Trump continues as Melania Trump's team reportedly demanding $250,000 for her to participate in an interview with CNN, all to promote her own book. That's a joke. Patrick Magner says the most innovative countries have lower income disparately. Yeah, exactly. How early can we call? You can call anytime, but before you call, I want to go ahead and play this video, and we'll take it from there. Let's see. Norman says, as an employee of our inventions while working for a corporation belongs to the corporation, you typically may get a thank you. A very good point as well, Mr. Reynolds. All right, let's go ahead and play the first video, and then we'll take it on the other side. Former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson did a great thing on Lawrence O'Donnell's show last night. And I tell you what, she, better than most, says the important thing out here as far as not just endorsing Kamala Harris. I want you to listen to her in the totality because this is what every thinking Republican, this is what every Republican that's moral and that cares about this country needs to do. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
November's coming very quickly. we've heard Liz Cheney go out there and go all the way from opposition to Donald Trump to now actively saying, yes, you have to, she believes the right vote is actually to vote for Kamala Harris. Where is your thinking on how you're going to vote?
I've known for quite a long time, number one, that I would never in my life vote for Donald Trump ever
That you made
again.
clear. That you did make clear. Yeah.
I hope so. Thank you for acknowledging that. I have also known for a long time, whether the nominee was at one point going to be Joe Biden, now Kamala Harris, that I was going to cast my vote for either candidate, now Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. In my personal view, now I understand that the way that people approach the way that they decide who to vote for is oftentimes deeply intimate and personal. So I don't ever want to try to tell somebody how to vote. But in my experience, number one, from being up close to Donald Trump, seeing his character, knowing who he is, believing him when he tells us who he is, and also who he chose as his vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, who's a whole separate conversation. It's just a despicable portrayal of the Republican Party. I am really, really proud as a conservative to have the opportunity to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in this election. Policy is important. It's very important to me. And there may be few issues that Kamala Harris and I would see eye to eye on. I hope that we'd be able to come to consensus on a lot more issues. But in saying that, the character of our leaders really matters too. We need to be able to elect people that we can trust to uphold our rule of law, people that we want our children to look at and to want to emulate. Kamala Harris is from a working class background. Tim Walz is from a working class background. Those are the people that Donald Trump claimed to represent, but actually exploited and manipulated their support. So, I say to Republicans who may be on the fence, I understand how frightening it can be to potentially break with your party. I also understand that there are concerns and very valid concerns about inflation. But Donald Trump and J.D. Vance cannot be trusted with the Constitution. They cannot be trusted to uphold our rule of law, and they can't be trusted to enact responsible policy. That in and of itself is disqualifying amongst many other things, some of them being that Donald Trump is also under federal and state indictments. So when it comes down to the decision for me to vote for Kamala Harris, I look forward to casting my ballot for her. And I think it's also really important to say, for me at least, that I will also be voting for Democrats in the House and the Senate too, just because I think it is so important that we get past this period of Donald Trump for America to begin healing. And once we're past that period, hopefully we can open up responsible policy debates in the future. But right now we need to focus on defeating Donald Trump.
Now, I couldn't have said it any better. The woman understands politics. She's not only going to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because she understands it's a moral thing to do, it's a patriotic thing to do. She knows that in order for this woman to be able to get things accomplished so that we can start moving the country on the right path again, that she needs to have a supporting cast. And that supporting cast is the Senate and Congress. So what is Hutchinson going to do? Cassidy says, I am going to make sure not only to vote for Kamala Harris, but I am going to vote for my Democratic representative, and I am going to vote for my Democratic senator as well. But after Hutchinson was done giving the advice as to what she intends to do, meaning voting for her congressperson, senator as well, not just Harris, she had some prescient words about what it takes to follow Donald Trump and a warning for J.D. Vance. And let's hope he takes, it's too late for him to have taken the warning, but she has a warning for him nonetheless. Check this out and we'll take it on the other side.
What do you think J.D. Vance hasn't yet learned about his running mate and what it's like trying to work with his running mate?
I try not to climb inside the minds of people who seem like they have very frightening thoughts, and JD Vance is one of those individuals. I'm split on if he knows exactly who Donald Trump is and he is fine with who he is, or if he thinks that Donald Trump will somehow become extremely loyal to him. But what I would say to JD Vance, number one, look what happened to Mike Pence on January 6th. He almost had to give his life for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump metaphorically has a path of carnage behind him, of people who are loyal to him, who worked for him sometimes for decades, who he just exploited their resources and exploited their loyalty because it helped him achieve his ends. But once he was done with them, he discarded them. They became absolutely nothing to him. I don't think JD Vance is going to have a much better fate than all those other individuals. So I think that he should go into this very cautiously.
So yes, we could list an army of people who followed Donald Trump and ended up in jail, followed Donald Trump and lost their shirt. Look at Rudy Giuliani. He actually lost his law license. We also have those ladies the woman who stood up there and spoke about Venezuela, getting the machines from Venezuela, etc., etc., etc. Donald Trump is a one-person wrecking ball. Those 500 plus people that have sentences that are serving in jail right now because of January 6th, they're there because of Donald Trump. Look how many lives this guy has wrecked. But he's still collecting money. He's still selling you stuff. He's still selling you cards, and he's still selling you gold bullions, and he's still selling you golden shoes, and he's still selling you golden watches. He's still making a lot of money. As those people who followed him go to jail, as we have those who went to jail and paid the price. Look, I love the way she said it. He left a whole lot of garbage. He left a whole lot behind. Carnage, as she puts it. A whole lot of carnage behind. So let's be clear, folks. Do you want another 4 years of this? Or do you want us to get back to where we need to be?
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely join, folks. Absolutely join. Okay, anybody want to call can go ahead and give me a call now. I'll wait before I do the other video. So pueden llamar 281-823-7747, 281-2823-7747. And just since Bruce is in the house, I'm going to tell you guys that we started taking these live calls again because of Bruce. I went ahead and found a company who allowed me to bring all this technology right into my entire broadcast system directly, as opposed to having to go through the old telephone system. So anyway, thank you, Brother Bruce. Thank you, Brother Bruce. And here we got Brother Patrick Magna. ¿Qué pasó, hermano? Talk to me.
Good afternoon. I didn't watch the video, but I read the article before you came on today about Elon Musk. I wanted to talk about billionaires just in general, but to start off, and I'm not trying to start anything with anybody, but to start off, I want to point out that when I was having a serious discourse with you about possibly improving our country, I wasn't saying that I wasn't saying I disliked it or anything. I just thought that there's always room for improvement for just about everything. I was told to move to Japan, which is fine. The reason why I brought that up is that's very, very unoriginal, first off. And it Well, I mean, it is. That's what you hear people. That's what I've been hearing from people for 20, 25 years. If I left, then the economy wouldn't be growing. First off, so that's self-defeating. If you're really interested in a capitalist society that's going to continue to grow, it also just shows a deep programming that I'm confused about why people can't discuss possibly tweaking capitalism or improving on it, and that's why I brought that up, but that's not why I called.
But can I answer that though? Can I answer that? Two
Sure,
things.
absolutely.
Let me give two answers first. So, anytime somebody, look, you are born here. I was born in Panama and I decided to come here. I emigrated here. And one of the things that I had to learn as an immigrant, right, was not to feel any sense, zero sense of inferiority to born Americans. And how did I develop that? I had to develop that by reminding myself of how this nation was created. So I have just as much rights or agency that you have, Patrick, that Eric Hayes has, that Bruce Pollard has. I feel absolutely no different as an American who is here and with the right to be here and with the right to have a say in this society because I pay my taxes, I'm productive, etc., etc., etc. So in that respect, I want to let you know that anybody who tells you to move, what I tell you to do is you pick up a mirror and point it at them. Say, no, I represent what America is. We are a nation who changes. That's why even the way the Constitution was written with an elastic clause, it understood that we were designed and made to be forward looking. Those people who has to have stasis, they're the ones that if they cannot take progress, meaning moving forward, they need to live in their own hole. Continue, my friend.
Okay. You brought up Musk, and I'm going to get to Musk, but I'd like to start with Bezos. We're all defending these guys because we think that we want to be like them. The first thing to understand is when you get to a point where you're filthy rich, they've done a lot of cognitive science. They've done studies. They've found a very interesting thing. There's neurons that are responsible for producing empathy. They're a part of the cognitive system that makes you evaluate the people around you and really see, well, what are their needs and how can I fit in with them? They found that if you have more money than you need, that those neurons start shutting down. And that means that when you accumulate a lot of wealth, you lose the ability to really understand the people around you. And that would explain a lot about a lot of these people's behavior.
I want to stop. I want to stop you. I want to stop you and ask you a question. How does that tie into the sycophants, however? Because there are those who you said they've lost that empathy, but how do you explain the transference of that same sick behavior to those who have lost the empathy, even though they don't have a pot to piss in?
Well, nothing says that it always has to happen the same way. But probably you could, it's a good question I haven't thought about, but you could see maybe they haven't had enough to survive. People don't starve slowly. So if somebody really feels like they've been cheated, like honestly cheated, and they don't have their basics, they're not going to operate within the parameters that we consider a good individual, and we shouldn't expect them to. If you expect somebody that doesn't have a home to be upright and extremely moral, it's not going to happen because they don't have their basics. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, I think in effect you're saying there's something wired in them. I mean, I don't want to say wired incorrectly, but I want to say that, I mean, there's an esteem. You could break it down to an esteem problem. You can break it down to they're all a fear problem. A lot of these other problems. So I mean, I could tie that into exactly what you just said. But continue, my brother.
Yeah, if your fight or flight never stops, you things are going to go wrong with your mind.
Right.
But going back to billionaires, I wanted to bring up Bezos first. Bezos has way more money than he ever will need. He's been divorced, just like all these other guys have been divorced. You would think that if this guy's happy, he'd be able to keep the people around him happy. He has no interest in it. Now, the same year, I believe I got the timeline right, but the same year he had he filed for a child tax credit. He got $4,200 back for it or something. I think that same year he bought a $500 million boat. Now he didn't need that. He didn't need that tax credit, and he didn't need that boat. That boat is over 400 feet long and over 100 feet tall, and they were worried about how to get it delivered. They were going to have to take down a historic bridge, and he was almost forcing it. He's like, "This is mine. I'm going to get it no matter what." They finally found out another way to deliver it, but he might use that boat a few times in his life, and $500 million went into it. There's a guy that has said that one of the solutions to global warming would be a couple of tankers full of iron filings that would cause an algae bloom in the middle of the ocean, which would sequester carbon as long as it falls to the floor. That project it has a price tag of somewhere between 10 and 20 million. So he could have done that project 10 times over for the world around him and had a name made for himself, but instead he has a luxury liner he'll never use except to show people off. You can't take it into small bays. You can't really take it to an island or anything. He bought it as a bragging tool.
Right.
And so you're taking from the public for something you don't even need, and you're not even happy doing it. Now, moving on to Musk, we've talked about how he took subsidies. The subsidies he took were intended to mitigate emissions.
Climate change. Yeah.
Yeah. If all the car companies met, they're not CAFE standards anymore, but if they all met a particular standard, we would have had fewer emissions. And one of the ways that corporate America got around it was, well, if I'm using too much and I find somebody that's not using as much, I can just pay them and then I can continue to pollute.
Exactly.
So what Musk did was he took our public funds and actually gamed the system to where all the car companies wouldn't have to make improvements on efficiency and emissions, and he made billions of dollars doing it. Does that sound like somebody that's interested?
Not at all. That's what I actually placed. The link that I put in the article that you read from my Substack, that is exactly the link that it points to remind people of that. The problem about it is when we don't critically think, when we don't teach people to critically think. My daughter is, she's had 2 strokes and she's finally starting to get a little bit into the workforce slowly. She can't do it for a long time or whatever, but she's starting to tutor at the schools in the area, right? And the program that she's on is to teach kids to critically think. And she came home the other day and said, "Dad, it's amazing they don't teach." And thinking about it, we never learned how to not just follow a pattern, but to critically think. But anytime we try to do that stuff, the school system takes it out. Anytime a book comes out that makes you think critically, they ban it. But anyway, I got to play another video unless I get another call, Patrick.
Absolutely.
But, thank you very much for what you contributed to the show today. Anybody else want to call? Thank you, brother. Just before Patrick, if somebody calls me just in the next minute, I need to play a video, but I'll wait for a minute or so just to give somebody else the opportunity. I think Ray wanted to call in. Today's PDR seemed to be class envy. No, I think if you think today, Brother Grant, if you think what we're showing is class envy, you're completely misunderstanding what we're trying to tell you. we're trying to, it's not about class envy. That is almost saying I envy a thief. I don't envy thieves. Okay, I don't. Brother Brackens, my dear brother Ray, talk to me.
Yeah, I was listening to, I think that was Brother Patrick, who
Yes,
was on the
yes.
line, but he made some good points. However, I want to take it in a different direction, and I feel like what you say, it becomes a sickness when people can just sit by and just hoard all of this wealth without any regard for what environment they're hurting or who's being exploited by way of slave labor
Hmm.
or what resources are, and it's just like, I feel like, yes, there are people. So I feel like there's a Jeff Bezos who definitely wants to, own the world and buy this big fancy boat that he can't do anything with, and he's a miserable, you know, contemptible human being. Apparently, his wife doesn't like him enough to stay with him, and that tells you a lot about some of these guys. It's like their money becomes their lover. It's like that old cartoon from Disney, like Scrooge McDuck. If they had a vault full of money, they would just go swimming in every day just to spite everybody, because that's literally the only thing they love in life is money. And
Exactly.
that's who
You know,
Donald Trump is
hey,
and was, and
Ray,
you know.
let me break you for a second. I mean, interrupt you for a second, because I think you and actually Patrick are on the same wavelength. You came on and you said you think it's a sickness, and earlier, Patrick says that there have been neurological studies that show that when you get to a certain level, you lose all these different neurons that gives the appropriate behavior of a human being, right? Now, I want to also correct one thing. Eric came out and said, "Hey, Ray Bezos is a Democrat." We're not talking about Democrats or Republicans. We're talking about billionaires. Period. We didn't. I don't think, Ray. I never heard you apply a party to the billionaires. It's the same concept of abuse. And am I correct that you never said that, Ray?
I mean, a billionaire is a billionaire, whether it's Oprah or whether it's Bezos. I mean,
Thank you.
if you're benefiting from a system that exploits working class people, look, I'm gonna just put some policy out here. Let's throw some out here. You know, I'll be one to say, you know what, I don't like paying taxes either when I know that it's going to wars and subsidies for companies that I don't want to support. Hell no, I don't want to pay those taxes. But wouldn't it be a novel idea if some politician, if some president passed a bill that there was no taxes on anybody making an income, let's say less than 400,000, and then all of the taxes would be taken from the billionaires and anybody making above that. Now I could
I
see, you know, but see, people know that that's most likely not a reality. So what they believe is, hey, I'm just gonna work and grind till I die, and hopefully, if I get rich before that happens, I'll know what it feels like to be privileged and free and not have to worry about poor people problems. But that's
I know.
not. But that's the world that we've been. That's the lie we've been sold. All right,
Exactly.
Egberto. I'm
But wait. Don't leave yet, Ray. Let me just say, and you know who interprets that in the funniest manner? Our comedian called, oh, now that I just had him on the tip of my tongue, but you guys know who is a comedian that I love best. Help me out here,
George
guys.
Carlin.
Which George Carlin? George Carlin. He has all those skits down perfect as far as what our economic system is all about and what it's all about. So anyway, thank you, Ray. Let me. I think I have time to play
I
my
got I
last
got one
video.
more. I got one more quote from another comedian. It's short, and I say this to you, Egberto, because I love you, brother, and you spend every day and every waking moment trying to change minds. But my favorite comedian, one of my other favorite comedians, Ryan White, says, no matter how much money you got, no matter how much you drill it in, you can't fix stupid. But thank you for trying.
I love you, man. Love you, love you, love you, love you. Take care, Ray. I'll talk to you maybe tomorrow morning, maybe tomorrow afternoon. We talk, brother. Peace. All right.
All right, bro. All right.
All right, take care. All right, folks, I think I have time for the last video. Let's go ahead and do it. It's a rerun from my 9 o'clock, my 6 o'clock show. Check it out. Every morning at 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern, of course, 4 a.m. Pacific. I have the Politics Done Right show is also done live at KPFT 90.1 FM, or it can always be streamed from politicsdoneright.tv, politicsdoneright.tv, or anywhere on the website and at our different sites. But I had an interesting exchange with one of our telephone callers, and where we covered inflation and we covered austerity. And what I wanted to show here is that we need to understand what occurred because of the pandemic and what real inflation is, so that we don't get into that MAGA mentality and believing that somehow Donald Trump did something exceptional for the economy and somehow Biden failed. It turned out that Biden's result out of this pandemic was all but exceptional. We can argue about a whole lot of little minutiae, but how we got out of it was better than the entire rest of the world, because we took the bull by both horns. Listen to this exchange, but I think it's important, and then we'll take it on the other side. Come on in, Brother Tag.
Good morning, Alberto. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. Talk to me.
I just wanted to mention a moment about how quite often we see history repeat itself. You've probably seen that. I just remember the days of austerity here in this country, and I'm not sure if you were here from Panama then. You probably were. But the last time we had austerity was during George Jr. And the mess it created that Obama had to take over. But a lot of people forget these things. And when the Republicans come up with this idea, it's just like trickle down. The austerity program really hurt our economy, and it takes a long time to recover. But what we're talking about here is the 2025 whole debacle is just a big plan to force austerity on our country again. And it just doesn't work. We know that from the past. So I just want to throw that out there this morning, that we can't let this happen. It just would be detrimental to all of us. So,
Tag, let me just say, austerity, you're absolutely right. Professor, Dr. Economist Richard Wolff can actually show you the charts that prove, austerity makes no sense. We always want to have an economy based on the Keynesian-based economy always works, right? In other words, when the private sector fails, the government is always there as a backstop, because the government in a country that has sovereign currency can create money to recover from wherever the private sector has failed. Keynesian economics has always worked. In fact, let's give some examples, right, Tag? If you look at how Brother Biden brought back this economy to be the economy of economists over the entire world, what he did is put Keynesian economics on steroids. He did what Obama was not allowed to do after the crash of 2008. He pumped money into the system as wherever it was needed. And you know what that did? That prevented us from crashing. That allowed us to recover from a pandemic, which 2008 wasn't a pandemic. 2008 was a man-made disaster created by derivatives, etc. In other words, they locked up the system in 2008. Here we had a pandemic that created these issues. And what's interesting is if you take a look at all the economies around the world, what Biden did with the American economy prevented that recession, prevented that. And by the way, for folks who says, well, he prints so much money, That's not what officially happens. But for those who say print so much money that we got inflation, again, you can review the blogs that I've written and what the experts have said. There was no real inflation created that was not greedflation. In other words, prices didn't go up commensurate with shortages at all. Real inflation is caused by shortages. We had spot shortages. We never had full shortages created by, meaning supply not being able to meet demand. So most of that inflation was just a money grab by the few, the wealthy, the corporate folks. So Tag, thank you for bringing that stuff up about austerity. Austerity is never, ever needed. Anything else, Tag, before I jump to Patrick?
Yeah, there was another choice at the end of the pandemic or to get us out of the pandemic, and that was depression.
Exactly.
If you don't do some inflation in the economy, you're going to get depression and austerity. And
Yes.
That was the choice. A lot of people don't think of the alternative to that. Now, I've just got to say real quick, I saw this article on French news last night. The price of butter in France has inflated by 100% just recently.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because milk production is way down in cattle. And if it happens in France, it's probably going to happen here. But the thing people don't realize is that when you have these natural disasters like this, that is the outcome, is you're going to have inflation. And unless they do something to stop that with the economy, it would be really hard on everybody. So this time we had kind of a landing because they put the money out there for us.
Now, Tag, I didn't read the story that you're saying, but that would be real inflation if I understood you correctly. You said milk production was down, and because you had a shortage, that is a genuine reason for inflation. What we had in America was not a genuine reason for inflation. There was really never, ever an oil shortage, and that increase in the price of oil, when it permeates itself through the economy, transportation for goods increases, fertilizer prices increases, just from having oil go up, just from them stealing money with oil. That created that problem. All pieces went up because we are an oil-driven economy. Thank you for bringing that up, Tag. I got to get to Patrick.
You can see that with the price of butter going up 100% in France, that we will be shipping butter to France pretty soon in Europe, and our butter prices are going to go up too. So
exactly.
There's always a world economy.
Yes. You're correct, but you have a wonderful day, sir. Thank you. So yeah, Tag is a regular caller to KPFT, our program, and I think he had some great information to give us about butter and et cetera, and the price of items going up. And why it's important is these are real stories that are affecting the American people, and we can tie those directly to what's actually occurring with what corporations are doing with pricing and whether it is something that is justified. In general, inflation is almost never justified unless there are real shortages, not caused by the greed of the corporations. Because, when we talk about outsourcing, offshoring, right? And they said the reason prices are high, inflation is because of the supply chain problem. Well, they are the ones who made a whole lot of profit from offshoring and not keeping enough inventory. So whose fault is that? That is not a supply and demand issue created by the people. It's a supply and demand issue generated by greed because they wanted cheap labor overseas. So all in all together, when you hear me say the fault of this high inflation when it occurred was 100% the fault of the corporations, that's exactly why. Because the decisions they made, they created the supply chain problem and all other problems. And absolutely so. I hope you get what I'm talking to. Well, we are at 59. So we're at the end of the show. We got some great discussions going on where we have some progressives kind of keeping some score with CSAC and a couple others that probably should go read an Economics 101 book or so. Still love you, CSAC. But anyhow, folks, let me tell you this. Please support the program. How can you support the program? You can support the program, first of all, by going ahead and going to politicsdoneright.com/support. That is where all the different options for supporting the program can be found. politicsdoneright.com/support. But guess what? What I'm asking for today is this. All of you who have the ability to do so, please consider, whether you already subscribe to the newsletter or not, please consider becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We're going to have a lot of perks for you. You get to read all of my books in the Substack platform, and every new book that I write will also appear there for you to read. But you know what else? I'm changing the format of the articles that I write, where it's going to be now video, synopsis of the video, and paid subscribers would have my analysis, which is usually about 10 to 12 paragraphs long of the topic that I'm discussing. That usually includes some of what is in the video and other things to enhance it. It's one of the incentives. I'm trying to find a balance between with a newsletter where I give just about everything, but kind of give a little bit enhancement for those who are willing to support what we're doing. So please consider becoming a paid subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I think I'm starting the new format today. You'll still get to see the full video. You still get to hear the synopsis and writing of the video, but the paid subscribers will be able to watch it both on Substack, my personal website, as well as on Daily Kos. You'll only have the synopsis, of course. But anyhow, let's see. If there is anything else, go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please become a paid subscriber. I guarantee you it's worth the pennies. It's worth the coffee that you're giving us for doing this. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.